Hi guys, thank you for joining me on my channel once again. Please tell a friend to subscribe to my channel. There's a lot of good news on this channel. Today I'm going to be looking at weathering. Then I'm going to be looking at what weathering is and also the different types of weathering. I'm going to be looking at types of weathering, physical weathering, chemical weathering, and biological weathering. But we'll deal with the topics, each one on its own. We'll start with physical weathering. With physical weathering, it says it's freeze and thaw. What happens with freeze and thaw is when the rocks overnight, during the night, it gets very cold. There's no sunlight, so obviously things will cool down. And then at some point, early hours of the morning, things will start freezing, especially in different areas where it's very cold. Things will be freezing, and then with freezing, things shrink. And then as the sun the next day hits whatever it froze during the night, then that process now you will find even like cars in the morning will be sweating and the water will be running down the cars and even some rocks will be wet, and this process where the ice was sitting on the rock starts melting because of the heat of the sun in the next day. Then with that process of the heat, now the rock heats up and expands again. With that freezing, shrinking and expanding, the rock actually starts getting brittle and eventually will start breaking down, right? This process then will be called, it's called exfoliation. If you have the rock, right, it's a solid rock, it will be freezing, going in and then expanding the next day, and eventually the outer crust will start breaking off, and then eventually these things will fall off like a little scale. It will be loosened from the different layers of the rock, because the rock has different layers. If you break one in half, you will see different layers of the rock, and as they freeze and as they thaw, then these layers become very brittle. They start developing cracks and eventually they break loose and then they fall apart. That's why you will see in the mountain areas, okay, due to other rocks as well, in the mountain areas you'll find a lot of these rocks, they don't have a smooth surface, they have a very rough surface. That means that most of that rock has been exposed and has been affected by freeze and thaw, right? Breaking out of the outer crusts, the outer layers, and then it breaks off and it has a very rough texture to it. Right, with chemical carbonation, there's carbonation, there's hydrolysis, and also there's oxidation. With carbonation, I'm just going to read this passage quickly because it's a lot to take in. With chemical, it says carbonation, the rain contains carbon dioxide that has dissolved in the droplets of the water, right? Carbon dioxide, CO2, right? That has dissolved in the droplets of the water, turning them into a weak acid, right? Called carbonic acid. So which means this one here now is also sitting with H2CO2, right? Carbonic acid, right? So this drop, as it falls down, it's already in an acid. So when it comes down and hits the rock, when this acidic water comes into contact with rocks that contain calcium carbonate, which is a very soft substance, such as limestone, a chemical reaction begins, right? So when it hits the limestone, if this is the limestone, which is very soft, this acidic droplet would then mix with the chemical of the limestone and eventually start chowing it away. It will eventually start eating away as it hits the limestone, right? Such as limestone chemical reaction begins. The rain changes insoluble calcium. The rain changes insoluble calcium into a soluble calcium bicarbonate, right? Calcium bicarbonate dissolves in rainwater and is washed away. This process is called carbonation. The process of carbonation is when calcium bicarbonate dissolves in rainwater and is washed away. So all of this that is busy being eaten away here eventually will run away with the rainwater, right? And that is the process of carbonation, where whatever is broken down from the limestone with the droplets, the acidic droplets. It will start eating away at the limestone or the surface, and then with that, as the rain builds up, as the water builds up, it eventually will run, and then with that running process, that is now carbonation, where something is being dissolved, right? With this process, carbonation, something is being dissolved from an insoluble to a soluble, all right? Then oxidation is a very common type of chemical reaction that happens to rocks and to objects that contain iron, right? So you will find there in your textbook on page 59, if you're using the platinum one, there is some pictures there of some rocky plains with some red lines running across, and then red and yellow. So basically the red there, it means that this rock is containing a lot of iron, and as you look around, if the gate's not painted, you will find that the gates will be that color. It's a rusty color, so the iron eventually will be rusting due to the rain. And then it says the rocks contain iron, and then this iron then actually helps to give that discoloration of the rock a reddish rusty look because it contains iron. Right, with hydrolysis is a sequence of chemical reaction that involve water and minerals called silicates. Silicates are present in many different kinds of rock, including sandstone and granite. Certain silicate minerals absorb water and change into clay. Clays are soluble and are easily washed out of rocks. These rocks now become unstable and may crumble grain by grain. Right, so same thing with this rock here that I drew earlier for the freezing tool. So it says there it contains clay, right, which is a soluble. With the soluble, as the raindrops comes, it will then change this clay into the insoluble into a soluble. When a chemical reaction happens, they mix, and eventually also that clay there will be dissolved, and the rock will eventually start breaking down, right? Because now the rock is not so strong anymore, it's not so solid anymore, it's now become brittle, and you can even crush it with your hand. Should it be eaten away, or should it contain a larger amount of clay? Right, with the chemical reaction here, it breaks it down. The insoluble, now with the acidic rain, is being broken down into a soluble, easily washed away, easily. Now it's also made brittle for it to break down easier, right? Then I also want to go into biological. Biological, it says it's plants and living things, us, right? So it's trees, it's plants growing into rocks. If you find a rock like this, let's say there's a little crack in the rock, and then with that, a little seed goes in there. A little seed gets stuck in the crack of that rock, and eventually the plant will start growing in that crack, right? So with that, if this is the crack, right, and the seed ends up there, it will get water, and eventually start growing, right, sprouting leaves and stuff. So when it starts sprouting leaves like that, eventually the roots will start creeping into the rock, also into the layers of the rock. Depending on where it's soft and so forth, it will also move into the rock and start breaking down the rock as well. So that is biological, where you'll find the seed getting stuck into a rock, and then eventually a tree or a small plant will start growing, and eventually also contribute to the outer layers of that rock starting to break and fall off. Right. Then it also says living things, us, with our fossils and our picks coming to break down the earth and the rocks and so forth, right? It says biological weathering involves weathering caused by plants, animals, and people. Animals such as worms, moles, and porcupines burrow and dig into the soil, which can weaken the soil and expose the rocks to other kinds of weathering, right? Now, I'm going to use this, let me just draw, where can I draw this? Here. Right. If I have this block here, I'm going to try and make this soil. So if the worm digs his way in there, eventually it will make a small tunnel, right? And others will make other tunnels, right? Other tunnels. Now, if the worm gets out here on top, right, then with a small heap of ground, if the mower comes, obviously you will have a bigger mountain of sand, right? So all of this sand here now, everything that has come up from inside here is now been moved to the surface. And if it's moved to the surface, it will now be exposed to Mr. Sun, right? Mr. Sun will be there, very happy to start heating up the exposed rocks, the exposed soil, and then eventually it will fall victim to freeze and thaw, where it will eventually further break down due to that, right? Due to the heating and the cooling process, right? Then it says you may have seen grasses and other plants disturbing rocks and even growing through concrete in your local area, right? That is where if you don't put plastic under your paving and stuff, you'll find eventually the plants will start growing through your paving. Where you have your driveway, you'll see those plants and you'll have to hire someone to come and pick out those little plants, right? Right, so with that, weathering tree roots can split a rock, causing large chunks of rock to break away. If trees are blown over in a strong wind, the roots can pull large pieces of the rock out. Right, eventually if there is now a tree that has grown out of the rock, it says that the roots now that is stuck in the rock has grown as well, so considerably big. So if the wind is blown the tree over because of the shear force, the roots in that rock might break out and then cause further damage to the rock and further split it apart, right? Then it says, okay, I will stop with unit 4, because then we're going into unit 5 on page 61, impact of human activities on weathering. So check out my next video, it will follow this one. Please ask a friend to join the channel, and then also like and share and download, do whatever you want, but subscribe. Thanks very much.